reason why slavery continued is because of Pookie and RayRay. Let's be fine, peace and blessings. This is Derric RauKhu more, and kind of got like a little rant. I'm gonna try to bring this rant. I'm not gonna make it real long, okay? I'm getting ready to go to Trader Joe's, and I really don't like going there. I don't even want to give them a plug or anything, but I really don't like going there, and it's not because of the produce or any of the things they sell or anything, but in my opinion, Trader Joe's is basically, and this is nothing against the establishment, against anything they do, but for the most part, it's always a sign of gentrification. And whenever you see a Trader Joe's that's coming to the community or so, that's usually what it is. Now, understand, this is not their fault or any of that kind of stuff. I kind of get upset about going there only because I get upset with us. I get upset with the fact that I even have to go outside of my community in order to even go there. All right. Now, part of what kind of stirred this whole conversation on, part of what started this whole, got me thinking like this, got me in this kind of this, I don't want to say a funky mood, but I'm in a mood, is that I went in here and I received a message from this Italian brother, and he commented on the fact that there were some things that he agreed with, some things he disagreed with, and everything. And that's great. I still appreciate his support and what have you. Because when he was certain things he was talking about, I agreed with what he was saying, and certain things he was saying I didn't agree with. But the fact that it was someone coming from another community, and they were speaking of something, I could find truth in it. And one of the things that this brother was talking about, this Italian brother was talking about, was the fact that, if I read it correctly, and hopefully, I'm getting this correct, one of the things he was talking about was the fact that, when the Italians, when they migrated to North America, migrated to the United States or so, there was a certain element that also came with them. And because of that certain element, it kind of, if I'm reading this correctly, it kind of created a stereotype that all Italians were in the mafia. All Italians, they were associated with the mafioso. Okay. As a result of this stereotype, and like I said, hopefully I'm reading this correctly. As a result of this stereotype, a lot of the male children especially wanted to be associated with that lifestyle. They wanted to get into that whole gangster lifestyle. All right. And from what I was reading, what they were telling me was that basically what ended up happening was that it was like everyone within their community, or I would say majority of the people within their community, they recognized that as being a dysfunction. And they all, for whatever reason, they all band together, and for the most part, they beat that out of their culture. Okay. They beat it out of their, it was like anytime they saw one of the kids acting, behaving in that certain way, they went ahead and they did whatever they had to do to get it out of them, to stop them from doing that. And I thought it was pretty interesting. I was, and let me, like I said, let me go back. Let me say, because also what I was reading as well, and what this individual was telling me was that even though they went ahead and they did that, it wasn't that it got rid of the entire element, but it stopped majority of them from actually associating with it. Okay, and from my understanding, there's parts of that dysfunction within their community that continues to exist. However, they got rid of the stereotype. Okay, and most of their people within their community are not associated with it. Okay, to the point that, like I say, it's a completely changed. From my understanding, from what he was saying, it's completely changed. They have a different set of values. They have not a set of values, but they have a different portrayal of who they are now. Okay, as a result of them all banding together and doing this. Okay, so I'm looking at this and I'm like, wow, that's pretty interesting. And as always, I try to always relate everything back to Kemetic spirituality. And when I look at our own community, and I'm looking at this and I'm reading this, and I'm looking at our own community, and like I said, I have to travel outside of my community just to go to Trader Joe's. Okay? Or let me rephrase that. Because it's not just about Trader Joe's. I got to travel outside of my community just to get decent produce, just to get decent service, just to get, some upscale anything. I got to travel outside of my community to do that. Now, why do I have to do all that? Well, I'm not going to say that, it's because of this individual or this, because they're bringing this into the community, which we already know, okay? Because we know the opiates and all of that. We know that none of this stuff is actually, it's not grown in our community, okay? We know it's not produced in our community, all right? We know it's distributed within our community, but it's not produced or any of that, any of those things within our community. Okay, we know that. All right. So, but why do we have to travel outside our community just to go ahead and get things? Why do we have to travel outside our community just to get anything of quality? Okay. Why do we have to travel? Why, better yet, why do, because here's another thing. I remember when I went to college, like I said, I went to PV, and I went to PV with, it must have been I can't remember how many of us actually went to PV, but it was a bunch of us that went from the Detroit area that went to one of the HBCUs, and we went to all these different HBCUs. And I remember when we went, we had all these fresh ideas. We all came back saying, hey, we want to do this type of investment, and we want to build up our city, we want to do this, and we want to build up our community and all this other kind of stuff. We all came back. We all have degrees. Most of us, we all went to school for engineering, okay? But when we come back and we try to build something, we try to invest within our community, why couldn't we invest in our community? It's not that we didn't have the money. It's definitely not that because we didn't have the talent, okay? So why weren't we able to invest? All right? Give you another scenario. Here we have all these teachers. We have all these educators, and I know about this because of me being an educator. But we have all these educators here, brilliant minds. But if you talk to the majority of them, look on YouTube, look on the different videos and so, look on the different blog sites and everything. Majority of us don't want to come and educate let me rephrase that. We want to educate our, those within our community, but there's something that prevents us from doing so. And it's not all about, because you're not invested in your community and all that kind of stuff. No. That's not what it is. What it is the fact that here it is, you want to do these things for your community. You want to do these things for your people or what have you. But your people ain't supporting you. And the reason why we're not supported, the reason why there's lack of investment, the reason why there is a lack of, anything, okay, any kind of prosperity besides your liquor churches, your liquors, I almost put those together. You see how it goes? But besides your liquor stores and your churches, maybe a car wash, okay, The reason why there's not a whole lot of investment or anything going on is because there's no protection. And who's going ahead and jeopardizing that protection? It's Pookies and RayRays. Okay? Now, we've all been in grimy situations. We've all been under, we've all been the underscore. We've all been the underdog. Okay? We've all been in that situation. The thing about Kemetic spirituality is that Kemetic spirituality, it teaches you that to be accountable. Okay? It teaches you that regardless of what cards you've been dealt in life, you can go in here and you can change your situation. But see, we're in a society that encourages dysfunction. And you and I know this, but some of us are still kind of struggling with the idea and struggling with the whole fact that dysfunction, there's money to be made in dysfunction. And if we're not the ones making it, then who is? All right? Now, not going to even go down that road because that, like I said, that's a moot point. We already know what that is and everything. And, for individuals who think, oh, you're blaming this individual, oh, okay, whatever. I'm calling it what it is. Okay? And those are the facts. We already know this. All right? But my point is that the reason why our community is not prospering the way it is, the reason why our community, our dollar is not bouncing as many times as it should be, the way Dr. Claude Anderson talked about, okay? The reason why there is nothing, there's not a whole lot of prosperity, there's a whole lot of building or any of that going on, along with gentrification, is due to the Pookies and RayRays. And I struggle with that. I struggle with trying to, see if there's another alternative and everything, and try to see, okay, how does this even tie back to Kemetic spirituality? Well, and how does it tie back to the history? Well, think about it. The Pookies and RayRays are the ones that went ahead and sold us into slavery. Okay? Yeah, we can talk about the fact that slavery existed in Africa for how many ever years. We can talk about that. But the mentality, the Pookie and RayRay mentality, is an old mentality that the Kemetic people, they went ahead and they put a finger on from the beginning. And this is the whole point of us actually going ahead and studying our history so that we can see, we can go ahead and we can see that we don't have to repeat the same mistakes that our ancestors have made. All right? But that Pookie and RayRay mentality in which you go ahead and you will shoot someone, you will sell someone something, you will rob from someone, okay? That regardless of who they are, the reason why you're doing it is because you don't identify them as being one of your own. You don't identify them as being family. And in Kemetic mythology, the Kemetic tradition, who's the one that did that? Who's the one that basically, steals and robs and murders because they don't understand that they're part of the family? It was Set. And that's where the Pookie and RayRay mentality comes from. It comes from Set. It comes from understanding that Set basically is a dysfunction within our community or within us. And the reason why we go in here and we give into that energy, the reason why we give into that, that dysfunction is because supposedly we don't know any better and we can't do any better. And really what it boils down to is because we just don't want to. There's two reasons why something can't be done. It's either because you don't know how or you don't want to. Now we got to know how, people. Family, we got to know how. There's A lot of people. There's a lot of us. I read, like I said, I read your comments and everything. Most of us, we're majority of us are educated. And I'm not just talking about college education. I'm talking about educated to the point that you can think. You can think critically. You can go in here and you can put together something and make something out of nothing. We are all educated to do that. But there's a segment of our community that is convinced that they can't do it, just like Set is. They're convinced that they can't do that, and they're encouraged to continue to run with this dysfunction. And like I said, it's that same mentality that went ahead and, instead of saying, hey, let's go ahead, let's do something, let's take nothing and make something, it's that same mentality that went ahead and encouraged slavery. It's that same mentality that went ahead and sold, our ancestors and everyone else, over and sold them to slavery. Okay, it's that same mentality that's going ahead and really that kept us in bondage, okay? Because people want to talk about house Negro and field Negro and all that kind of stuff. Whatever. You need to read your history. That's not how it goes, all right? It's the same mentality, okay? The same Pookie and RayRay mentality that kept folks in bondage during slavery. It's the same Pookie and RayRay mentality that is keeping us financially in bondage right now, okay? Because there are folks within our community. We've all heard this. We all know this. It doesn't take rocket science. It's rocket science for us to realize, okay, hold on. All we got to do is go ahead and do this, and our situation will change. Okay? Our situation would change. We know this. Who's the ones fighting against this? Okay? There it is. All right. So, like I said, I gotta get ready to go to this store. All right. And I'm just looking at that, and I'm like, what can we do to go ahead and do this? What can we do to go ahead and improve our situation? Well, we got to start by that. We got to start by going ahead. Yeah. We can invest in all that kind of stuff. I can invest my money in Detroit. I can invest my money in Cleveland. I can invest my money in Baltimore and all these different places. I can invest my money in this. Okay? But in the end, I'm just basically running water down the drain. Okay? If the Pookie and RayRays won't get on board. Okay, so just wanted to go ahead and drop that off. Just, like I said, try not to make it real long. I just want y'all to think about that. Yeah, I'm quite sure some people might disagree. I'm quite sure a lot of you are going to disagree. That's okay. Like I said, still got love for you and everything. Still respect you. But tell me what you think. Tell me what you think. We'll move on, okay? Until next time, thanks again for liking, sharing, and subscribing. Again, if you got any comments, questions, or suggestions, go ahead and drop me a line. Until next time, peace.